My name is Morgan Fisher. I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas. I graduated from Kansas State in May of 2004 with a degree in Business Administration Management.
My name is Jack Thomas. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I graduated from Kansas State with a BS degree in social science in 1972. Went to grad school here for 2 years in regional community planning.
I would say for myself, how to cherish every moment and treat people how you want to be treated. I had the opportunity to not only be a student, but also work here in the admissions office and with the one and only Dr. Pat Bosco. And so that's definitely one of his Boscologies, is to treat people how you want to be treated and listen to people, and no names. So I would say by far those are some of the things that I'll forever cherish from Kansas State.
One thing that K-State taught me that I took for the rest of my life is the value of relationships, and also that hard work and persistence pays off. Dr. Hall, who spoke to the students yesterday, we met as 18-year-old freshmen, and we have been friends ever since. The strength of, and there are other relationships that I have formed from individuals that I played basketball with or I went to school with and struggled around issues of race and growing up here in Manhattan, Kansas. Those relationships are still in place, and we're still supporting and nurturing each other. And we may not speak every day, but when we do speak, it certainly resonates with each and every one of us. So.
Some of the individuals who supported me at Kansas State, definitely Dr. Pat Bosco, as an employee, once I was an employee. But when I was a student, definitely hands down, Miss Anita Cortez. I was a developing scholar, and so I had no idea what research was or working with faculty members. And so she gave me the opportunity to work with amazing faculty here to do research, do presentations. And I will say by far she was probably one of the #1 people, because now that's led me into my doctoral studies. And so I'm grateful to her. A couple of my dear faculty over in the School of Business, so Dr. Donita Bamberline and Dr. Diane Swanson, they're phenomenal. Dr. Lloyd Letcher also in Human Resource Management. So those individuals by far were a huge influence and support while at K-State.
So some of the people in relationships that helped me here was Verl Schweitzer, for one, as African-American male who went through the K-State system as an athlete. At the time that he went through that, really helped. He was there when we felt like we needed someone to talk to, someone who could help us, who could understand what we were also going through, even though it was maybe some 10 or 15 years later than what he went through. And then also some of the relationships that we had with other classmates and teammates. We made a lot of mistakes as young men growing up here on campus, but we did a lot of things right. And oftentimes, Verl Schweitzer may not have been there when we had this particular moment of truth, when we needed to make decisions, right from wrong, or you were just facing what to us was a life crisis at that moment. Verl may not have been there in the middle of the night or in the middle of class or whatever, but my roommate was, or my teammate was, and those individuals we helped each other, we supported each other.
Some of the programming that I feel was instrumental, definitely for me personally, developing scholars, because I did have a chance even as an undergraduate to interact with dynamic faculty in research and getting to better understand what faculty members do, to be quite honest. So, and then how that can help propel your career, however you see yourself after undergraduate. I would say some of the student organizations, so Black Student Union, basically it's like a home away from home. I mean, Kansas State is itself, but then finding a student organization like Black Student Union was instrumental as well, because developing relationships with other students, not only just from the state of Kansas, but around the country who have decided to come here, and finding that community as well. For me, because I was a business major, being a business ambassador and getting to speak with prospective students who are interested specifically in the College of Business, that was interesting as far as actually getting to teach a course and getting to talk with underclassmen when they first came into the College of Business. That was a really interesting experience, and getting to share my story of how I decided to be a business major. Trying to think if there are any others. Well, and obviously Delta Sigma Theta. So being a member of Delta Sigma Theta here at the Eta Gamma chapter, definitely getting to commune with those women, and also establishing who we are as young women. That was also instrumental as well in my development, so in supporting me.
Great, thank you.
There weren't many programs here to support us when we were freshmen in 1968, and there was a need for the Black Student Union, so classmates created that. There was a need for fraternities and sororities, and some of the women that were mentioned at the event last night as the founders of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority were all classmates of mine. And to hear those names last night really resonated, because I could remember each and every one of those individuals. And so it's a sense of pride as you fast forward 50 years and you see the results of some of the struggles that we took on, some of the initiatives that we took on, because there was a void there for us. And to see you all blossoming and still struggling with some of the same issues, but you all are energetic, you're intelligent, you are technically competent, and we know that you will do very well once you leave this university and go into your careers and life. And so we're very proud of what you all have accomplished and this legacy. To hear that the Black Student Union here has been the top Black Student Union in what is now the Big 12 conference for 12 of the last 15 years is just incredible. Dr. Hall and I were talking about that last night. So there's a lot of things that you all are doing in terms of mentoring that next group of leaders to lead this, not only just lead the organization and become leaders in campus, but leaders in life, because all of those things are transferable and it'll take you way beyond your K-State years. But each group seems to be nurturing, mentoring, supporting that next group. And that is so important for that continuity and to have that institutional sort of legacy. So we're really proud and happy of the work that you all are doing.
So as far as social life at Kansas State, I thoroughly enjoyed it. When I came in, I'm a huge fan of athletics. So that was a huge part of my social life here. So with it being game day today, I'm very excited. So I just remember being an undergraduate and getting pumped up and going tailgating for game day Saturdays, and that's exciting. I remember a few games where ESPN Game Day would come to campus. In particular, I just remember when we played Nebraska. This was in 2000. Nebraska at that time was #1 or #2 in the nation. And it was a night game, freezing, windy, snowing, and it was just like, oh my gosh, will Kansas State be able to pull it off? That game by far, of all the games that I've gone to, is probably one that will stick with me forever, because we beat Nebraska 29-28. And so, so that was a huge part of my social life. But then also just hanging out with friends. I lived in Moore Hall, on the 6th floor. And a lot of my girlfriends, they lived over in Ford. So I just remember we'd have sleepovers. Either they'd come over to my place, or I would usually go over to Ford, and hang out there. So those were my memories. And then, of course, going to Aggieville as I got older. And I don't know, I just, just reminiscing about those times, and till this day, I was in Aggieville last night. So, so it's really fun. Yeah.
Okay. So for me, two sets of memories, I guess, around the social life. From freshman, sophomore year, there weren't a lot of African American females on campus. So much of the social life, we would have parties, of course, but much of the social life was guys just having fun and playing around. Sometimes we would meet women from other campuses and we would go visit them, or they would come here and visit us, particularly around games and homecoming and things like that. Junior year, there was this influx of African American women, students in general, but women were the ones we were interested in, of course, from all over the state, from Wichita and Kansas City and other places. And then the social life took on a whole nother dimension. And it was fun, it was very festive, and very enjoyable. Last night was, as you would say, was just off the chain for us. So we were talking, and there would have been a time when we would have been the life of the party. We would have known everyone that was in the room. But last night we didn't know anyone. We knew each other, and I think there were 2 or 3 people from our era who were in attendance. So we didn't really know anyone other than ones, we just met, like yourself and others. But it was still a very, very enjoyable, pleasurable evening. Again, just to see the proud is the word you mentioned, and that was something that I felt, which I had not really felt about K-State in a very long time, just based on my personal experiences here. Over the years, I did not have a real deep affinity for the university. I certainly appreciated the opportunity that I had here, educationally, the opportunity to go to school, get degrees, and that certainly has propelled me throughout my professional life. I did have a daughter from that era who lives in Topeka now, and that was also a very proud and special moment for me. It certainly helped me to grow up, probably a little quicker than I had planned, but you have responsibilities and you have to take care of those responsibilities. And when we leave here, I'm going to visit her and my granddaughter and spend the rest of the day and tomorrow with them. So.
Gosh, what I would tell my college self, like if I were 18 again, to don't rush it, because life is always there, and cherish every moment. I think this is probably the last time in your life where you're surrounded by individuals that are your same age and they're exploring and discovering new things. So take that moment to actually to do that and discover who you are. And find new things also. I was one of the very rare students who did not change their major. And so I came in with business management, graduated with business management. Then when I started working in admissions and then seeing all the different majors that Kansas State had to offer, I was like, maybe I should have, explored a little bit more. And then also, if I could go back, I would definitely say study abroad. Oh my gosh. Now I'm very fortunate to travel the world now, but I wish I would have taken that time to study abroad as a student, because I think that opens up your perspective on a global scale, as to all the different opportunities. So if you have a chance while you're in school, study abroad, and get to know your faculty. Get to know your faculty. They are here to support you, and they want to see you do well. A lot of times, undergraduates they're scared, they're and nervous and intimidated by faculty members, but they are your number one advocates on your campus. So those are my tidbits.
I would have told myself to, as she said, take time to smell the roses, to study harder, to run to math and science, not run from them. Save your money, and probably take better care of myself physically. Some of the things that I did back then have had residual effects on my health now, and didn't really realize it at the time because I was this world-class athlete. But those are some of the things, but particularly concentrating on the opportunity that you have here to learn. Get a mentor, someone that can really help you focus academically on some of the things that you're really going to need to be successful. You only get to do this, particularly on somebody else's dime, one time.
So seeing Black Student Union as it thrives, it again, I would say just proud, because I was here in the early 2000s, and so I feel like the momentum was shifting then, because I was also a member of the Big 12 Council, and so I, along with Brandon Clark, were the co-chairs for when the conference came to K-State in 2004. And so I just remember so many of the advisors who attended from all the other universities who attended, many of the students, because there were about 1,100 students who came from across the country to the conference. And so many of them were they're excited to be here, but then just the way the programming went and the individuals who came to speak to the students, they were like, this was such a phenomenal conference, and you all did such a great job organizing it. So we knew in the back of our minds that we were doing something and doing it right. And so to fast forward, gosh, almost 20 years, and see all the different awards that Black Student Union has won, and well-deservingly, it makes you proud. And as far as Eta Gamma, when I was here, it was very small. And so my line, there were only 5 of us when we came through. Many of us were either juniors or seniors on the line. So we didn't have as many years to make an impact. So to see the sorors now and to see the number, and then to see also that they've won awards also as a chapter, it makes me proud as well.
It feels great to see the progress that has been made with BSU, as well as the men's basketball and women's basketball as well. We followed that as well when we were in school. The Black Student Union, again, just to see the energy, the vigor, the commitment that the students have to the organization is really mind-boggling. I wish it was just 20 years ago. This is 50 for me, so it's just awesome. And I look at the young students now, such as yourself, and I wonder, is that how I looked when I was 18, 19, 20? Yeah, I hope so, but I don't know. But again, to see that you all are so involved and so engaged with the organization, the community, the university is really refreshing. I was looking at this poster over here, which I know is not necessarily related to the Black Student Union, but it all comes out of that same experience, this Black Male Initiative for Imhotep. And so in 1968, 69, 70, when we were in college, we didn't know who Imhotep was. It wasn't until years later that we were able to, through self-study, find out about this genius, this multi-talented genius. And so to see that is just another example of where all of this has gone. As I stated earlier, as it related to the Delta, the founders were all our classmates and peers. And so I guess that first group, I don't really remember how many, but it was at least those 9 women that were mentioned last night as founders. There could have been others. And we would go to their events over the years. For a number of different reasons, I didn't become involved in the Greek life. When I first came, there was campus. I think maybe my junior year, the Omegas formed a chapter here, but I never did participate in that. I would go to their events and certainly supported the things that they were doing out in the community, but just took a different path as it related to community and fraternal involvement. So it's all good because the campus did have a house. I'm not sure if they still have that now, but they had a house down on 14th Street, which was significant in and of itself. It looked like any other beginning organization. I'm not even sure if it originated as an organization, more so as a group of people coming along to address a need that we had for support. There was really nothing here to support us as Black students. We were aware of the African Student Union, and that might perhaps have been an impetus for that. I just really don't remember. And I thought about that last night when the young lady from the Congo introduced herself and mentioned that her organization had formed in '63, which was some 5 or 6 years before BSU. So it was a number of meetings like that for different things, different initiatives that were going on at that time. You also have to place it into the overall historical context of what was going on in the country in '68. This was probably, I always say this was the best year to be a high school senior and a college freshman. So in our high school senior part of the year, which would have been January through June, we had this, unfortunately, when Dr. King and Robert Kennedy were both assassinated, there was a lot of unrest around the Democratic National Convention in Chicago at that time. Just a number of those real heady times. Also, that was when the protest took place at the United States Olympics. So for us as freshmen coming into all of this time of self-discovery, one of the things that I do remember, so I'm going to digress a little bit, we had an athletic dorm at that time on Denison Avenue. And there was a room, recreation room downstairs where all of the athletes would watch television. Jim Ryan was from Wichita, Kansas. He was the world-class miler at that time, unbeatable, nobody could touch him. He went to the University of Kansas, but we still was cheering for him. And he came up in the mile race. He was a world record holder. And there was a African from Kenya that he was running against. And Jim Ryan had a girlfriend that went to K-State. So it was all of this Kansas stuff swirling around. Jim Ryan gets smoked in the mile. I mean, it wasn't even close. And the black athletes, we didn't know anything about this Kenyan guy, but the black athletes were cheering the Kenyan. The white athletes were cheering Jim Ryan, and they were just thunderstruck that not only had he lost, it was the way he lost. And we were whooping and hollering and all of that. And the only other moment that I saw in my life where there was such a racial polarization around the event was the O.J. Simpson verdict. And it was, and so you didn't really recognize the significance of that at that time in 1968, but years later, I did. There was also the Olympics where the two sprinters from San Jose State gave the Black Power salute on the medal stand. Very strong, principled position that they took. They paid dearly for that throughout the course of their personal and professional lives, pretty much being ostracized and just probably recently now being accepted back into the mainstream. So there was a lot of things that were going on in '68 which propelled us and inspired us to take some of the things that we did. We certainly took some strong positions, but we also took responsibility for our situation and tried to build things. You know, there's also riots going on, and that was all about, you know, sort of destroying and whatnot. But we were looking to build institutions, to build programs, things that would support us while we were in school, and hopefully they would take on some permanence and continue. So to see the BSU 50 years later with you all, it's just awesome to see Deltas where they have gone and grown to, and the work that they have done consistently over the years in the community, because it's not just about having the parties and the social aspects of that. It's about giving something back to the community. And so those are some of the things that are really just inspiring. So I'm ready to see if I have another year of eligibility and come back to K-State and try to do something good. Yeah, give me a jersey, and I can sit on the sideline, try to stay awake for the whole game.
Gosh, being an alum of Kansas State, I feel like you're in, this might sound bad, but I feel like we're just an elite group. And it's something not to take for granted. And I tell a lot of individuals I'm very proud to be a Kansas State alum, especially that I no longer live in the Midwest. And so a lot of individuals ask, you know, the common questions: what's your name? What do you do? Where are you from? And I always mention in that statement, an introductory statement, that I went to Kansas State because it was such like a informative but instrumental part of my life. And I feel like it has propelled me to where I am now. And it's something that I do not regret. Even though I work in higher education now, if I had to do it over, I would come home to K-State again. Yeah.
I've had mixed feelings about K-State. I mentioned earlier, for years I didn't have a particular affinity for the university. There were several things that have happened over the years that as you get older, you mellow and you become wiser, you should. And so I've had mixed feelings about the university for a very long time, but the last 5-10 years or so have really come to appreciate my time here. I've always valued the relationships that I had with my fellow students and athletes. There was one individual here that I still feel somewhat close to, is Larry Weigel, who was our freshman basketball coach, and he's still involved in the university. Some of our teammates' children have taken on roles here. Coach Hartman's daughter was here for a while. So we still had those sorts of connections. I'm originally from St. Louis, so I've some of the work that I'm involved in, I meet a lot of architects, engineers, and many of them are from K-State. And so we have those sort of connections and relationships. I have a son, my youngest son played basketball, and I think one of the first game or two he had as a freshman at Loyola was here in Manhattan at K-State. So I had mixed feelings. I want my son to do well. I want my son to be happy. I want my baby to be happy. I want them to win. But I'm here at K-State, and, they didn't win. He played well. So it wasn't such a bad thing. I probably have been to K-State more in the last 10 years, last 5 in particular, than at any time prior to that. There was an experience that I had for the last 10 years. I commuted. I actually worked at the airport in Jackson, Mississippi. And being in Jackson, with a number of the historical black universities in the state and nearby, I was watching how the people in Jackson related to Jackson State University. So everybody from 4 to 84 loves Jackson State. They love Tougaloo. They love whatever their Alcorn, whatever their university is, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. And so, well, what did I miss? What did I miss by not becoming more involved in the university or whatever? So it kind of made me think and reflect back on my own life and my own relationship with the university. So I've overcome quite a bit. Again, this weekend has just really been something special. Coming back a few times with Dr. Hall when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and when the BSU invited him here a couple of years before that. Those are the things that have brought me back and make me appreciate what I had here at any other time since I've left. So I will continue to be involved in the Black Student Reunion. I'll do whatever it is that I can do to help some of the students with their careers, with internships, things like that, and be a mentor and hopefully a role model for someone.
I am Morgan, class of 2004.
I am Jack, the class of 1972.
We are K-State Black
Alumni.
Alumni. Is that right?